Hello my friend, I've cooked up 8 freshly made good news stories to help us all get through the month. But before we do, I just want to say thank you for all the kind words and support on last month's middle of the month video. We've got such a lovely corner of the internet over here and you helped make that happen. If you're new here, I'm Sam and I make videos highlighting good news and solutions to some of the world's biggest problems. And if you've been here before, tap that like button to help us fight back against the doom and gloom and push more reasons to feel hopeful out there. So let's get into it. Here's some good news from the last month that you might have missed. And we're starting strong with one of the biggest public health wins of our time, and that's news that the number of people at risk of the world's leading infectious cause of blindness has fallen by 94%. For the first time on record, fewer than 100 million people worldwide now need treatment for trachoma. To put that into perspective, in 2002, an estimated 1.5 billion people were at risk. But by late 2025, that figure had dropped to 97.1 million, reflecting more than 2 decades of sustained global progress. And this progress comes from decades of coordinated action by governments, local communities and global partners, combining surgery, antibiotics and long-term improvements in hygiene and sanitation to stop the disease spreading. So far, 27 countries have officially eliminated trachoma as a public health problem, including Egypt and Fiji most recently. While millions remain at risk, health experts say that this milestone shows global elimination by 2030 is now firmly within reach. Next we head down to Chile, where they're creating a huge new national park at the very tip of the Americas, completing one of the longest wildlife corridors on Earth and protecting one of the last truly wild regions on the continent. The Chilean government has signed a protocol to create Cape Froward National Park, protecting roughly 300,000 acres of remote Patagonian landscapes on the Brunswick Peninsula. Once completed, the park will help complete a 2,800-kilometre wildlife corridor, stretching to the southernmost point of South America. The project is being led by Rewilding Chile alongside the Tompkins Conservation, who have, over nearly a decade, stitched together donated land and public holdings to form what would become Chile's 47th national park, supporting the country's pledge to protect 30% of its land by 2030. The area is a biodiversity hotspot, home to the endangered Wemel deer, river otters, wild pumas, penguins, whales and vast kelp forests. The coastline also preserves thousands of years of Kawaskar history, embedded in campsites, fish traps and cultural landmarks. As the final steps are completed, Cape Froward is set to lock in protection for one of the wildest remaining landscapes on Earth, while supporting sustainable livelihoods for generations to come. Over in the US, there was a powerful example of public action shaping national policy, as tens of thousands of people helped stop the largest proposed cuts to NASA in history. After the White House proposed slashing NASA's budget by 24% for 2026, including a devastating 47% cut to science programs, a massive grassroots response kicked into gear. Nearly 85,000 messages were sent to Congress. Advocates showed up in person for days of action, and people from every congressional district made it clear that space science mattered, and all that pressure worked. In January just gone, Congress passed a budget bill rejecting almost all of the proposed cuts, preserving NASA's science missions and delivering the agency its largest inflation-adjusted budget in nearly 30 years. Dozens of missions that had been slated for cancellation were saved, STEM programs were fully restored, and Congress added legal protections to prevent the administration from quietly withholding funds. It was a near complete reversal of what only months earlier looked like an existential threat to US space science, but it just shows what can happen with the power of sustained, organised collective action. When I found this next story, it sounded like something out of a video game, and it's that scientists from a South Korean university have developed a spray-on powder that stops severe bleeding in seconds by forming an instant gel barrier when sprayed on wounds. The powder's being created by a research team at the Korea Advanced Institute of Science and Technology, and the team includes an active duty army major, so I guess you could call this a major breakthrough. Anyhow, essentially it combines natural materials that react with calcium in the blood to create an ultra-fast gel, kind of like a liquid bandage. And the powder can absorb over 7 times its weight in blood. Unlike traditional flat bandages that can't reach deep on irregular wounds, this powder can be sprayed into any wound shape. We're literally living in the future. One of the things we definitely want living far into the future are our coral reefs, and there was good news for them as Mauritius just pulled off a rare reef win, as scientists bred heat-resistant corals which helped nearly all of them survive a major bleaching event. Bleaching occurs when stressed corals expel the algae living in their tissues, turning white and often dying. This is typically triggered by warming ocean temperatures. To counter this, Dr. Nadim Nazruli and his team at Odysseo Oceanarium developed a selective breeding approach. They collect coral eggs and sperm during synchronized spawning events, which happen on single nights each year. They then raise coral larvae in protected nurseries and select only those that withstand higher temperatures to reproduce and repopulate degraded reefs. During last summer's marine heatwave, with waters reaching around 31 degrees Celsius, nearby wild reefs showed bleaching rates of up to 80%, while these heat-tolerant corals had a 98% survival rate. With Mauritius home to roughly 250 coral species and reefs underpinning fisheries, tourism and coastal protection, and being worth billions in economic value, researchers say that this approach could play a crucial role in helping reefs cope with a warming ocean. While stories like this show that nature can adapt with the right help, we can't always rely on adaptation alone to solve every challenge climate change throws at our oceans. Things like coral breeding, restoration and innovation, all these things do matter, but they only work if ecosystems are given space to recover. That's why it's such important news that the High Seas Treaty just came into force over the last month too. It's a massive global agreement that for the first time creates a legal framework to protect marine life across the high seas, which make up nearly half of our planet and has largely been unregulated until now. It opens the door to large-scale marine protected areas, limiting destructive industrial activity and giving ocean ecosystems the space they need to recover, not just adapt. Before the last few stories, I just want to say a big thank you to my YouTube and Patreon community who helped me produce these videos and shine a light on people doing good in the world. For the price of a cup of coffee each month, you can join the fight against all of the doom and gloom in our news feeds, help me make more of these videos, get access to exclusive content and get your name in them too. To support, just scan this QR code right here or type this URL in or tap the link in the description down below. And if it's easier and you don't want to leave YouTube, you can just tap that join button down below to become a supporter over here instead. Our next story takes us to Bali, not to have a spiritual awakening, but to hear about a major win for animal welfare as one of the island's biggest tourist attractions has ended elephant rides. Bali Zoo has announced it will no longer allow visitors to ride elephants, a practice widely recognised as one of the most harmful forms of wildlife tourism. The decision follows similar moves by 3 other Indonesian venues in 2024, signalling a wider shift across Southeast Asia's tourism industry. Elephant riding typically depends on cruel training methods that use fear and pain to force elephants into submission, followed by a lifetime in captivity where they're unable to roam freely, socialise or behave naturally. While some venues in Bali still offer elephant rides, campaigners say that this moment proves change and a better life for captive elephants is possible, and we can all play a part in helping to accelerate that change by refusing attractions that offer riding, bathing or performances with elephants, choosing to observe elephants from a safe distance, and asking travel companies how animals are treated before booking. Thousands of people making small choices like that are already helping push tourism in a better direction. Another thing moving in a better direction is the fight against poverty, as new data from the World Bank suggests that 80% of countries are expected to see poverty fall in 2025, which would be the largest share of countries making progress in over a decade. That improvement is also projected to reach some of the hardest hit places, including 75% of low-income countries and 70% of fragile and conflict-affected states. This chart helps show what that looks like, so each country has an arrow next to it, so if the arrow points left, poverty is projected to fall, and if the arrow points right, poverty is expected to rise. What stands out is how many arrows are now moving left. Taken together, the pattern suggests that after years of pandemic shocks, inflation, conflict, and climate disasters, more countries are finally seeing conditions improve rather than worsen. And for our final story, I wanted to highlight a duo from Cyprus who are doing something really cool with waste olive pits. Yamor and Mustafa are turning millions of waste olive pits that are usually burned or discarded into durable, eco-friendly furniture. Their venture's called Pit to Table, and it helps reuse agricultural waste and prevent trees from being cut down for wood. First, they collect the olive pits from farmers across North and South Cyprus. They're then cleaned and ground into tiny pieces before being mixed with a locally sourced bioresin. This mixture is then pressed and turned into panels, creating a sustainable alternative to MDF and plywood, which are often full of toxic resins and can't be recycled. But this project is bigger than just sustainability, it's also bringing communities together. With the island of Cyprus being divided into Turkish and Greek sides, Pit to Table is working to unite farmers from the entire island, proving that design can also build peace. And that's a wrap. Thank you so much for watching. Tap the like button if you've enjoyed this video and subscribe so you don't miss the next episode. I'll see you in a couple of weeks, my friend. Bye!